My wife said I was her karmic tribulation of love. If she overcame it, she could ascend to immortality. She held our son, standing next to the man in brocade robes, her eyes as cold as ice. Limu, you and I are, after all, people from two different worlds. The man chuckled, tossing down a gold card. Mortal, there's $1 million in here, enough for you to marry 10 more wives. Don't bother Qingxue Immortal anymore. I stared intently at them, my nails digging into my palms, blood dripping down. At that moment, I heard a demonic roar from the depths of my soul, dormant for 10,000 years. My heart felt like it was being clenched by an invisible hand, almost stopping. The mountain wind blew, carrying a bone-chilling coldness that seeped into my bones. Ling Qingxue, my wife of 3 years, was now so unfamiliar. She once said she loved watching me return from hunting, bringing back baskets of mountain fruits for her and our child. She once said her greatest wish in this life was to grow old with me in these mountains. It was all a lie, a karmic tribulation of love. What a karmic tribulation! The man in brocade robes, named Xiao Tianzi, held her waist, the contempt in his eyes piercing my heart like needles. He looked at me like I was a stray dog on the roadside. And my son, Lin Yan, was struggling in Qingxue's arms, crying and reaching his little hands out to me. Daddy, Daddy hug. Qingxue held him tightly, her voice without a trace of warmth. Niner, don't be silly. He's just a mortal, and you were born to follow me on the path to immortality. He is your burden. A burden? The blood of my body rushed to my head in an instant. My throat felt like it was blocked by a ball of fire, a sweet, bloody taste rising up. Burden? You say my son, Limu's son, is a burden? Ling Qingxue, how cruel can you be? I suddenly raised my head, my eyes bloodshot, staring at her. Give him back to me. Xiao Tianzi sneered and stepped forward, blocking Qingxue. Mortal, are you asking for a beating? Giving you $1 million is being generous. Don't be ungrateful. Your mortal connection with Qingxue Immortal is over. It's your good fortune for 8 lifetimes that she allowed you to be her karmic tribulation. Now, take the money and get lost. As he spoke, he flicked his finger. The thin gold card, like a sharp blade, spun towards me. I didn't dodge. The gold card grazed my cheek, leaving a burning bloodstain, then fell to the ground with a clink. Blood flowed down my cheek, but I couldn't feel the pain. My world was only filled with the heart-wrenching cries of my son and Ling Qingxue's cold, unfeeling face. I was utterly despondent. No, more terrifying than utter despondency was the boundless hatred, like a volcano dormant for billions of years, erupting in the depths of my soul. Boom! A loud noise rang in my mind. A shackle, sealed for countless years, shattered inch by inch. Countless chaotic, bloody, and domineering memories flooded into my spirit like a bursting dam. I am the primordial demon lord. A single thought. Seas turn to mulberry fields. A single thought. Gods and demons kneel. I cover my head in pain, kneeling on one knee, my body trembling violently. Strands of ink-black, demonic energy uncontrollably emanated from my body. The grass beneath my feet instantly withered and turned to ashes. The surrounding trees turned black and lost all vitality at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sneer on Xiao Tianzi's face froze slightly, noticing something was wrong. Playing tricks. A flash of ruthlessness appeared in his eyes, and he raised his hand, sending a ray of golden light towards me. You're courting death, you mere mortal. Ling Qingxue also frowned. She instinctively sensed a palpitating aura, but she didn't want to believe it. How could a mortal hunter possibly? The golden light arrived in an instant. I suddenly raised my head. My eyes, once simple and gentle, were now bottomless black, with what seemed to be 2 blood moons floating deep within my pupils. I simply looked at the golden light. Without even moving, bang! The golden light, powerful enough to split mountains, exploded in midair 3 inches from my brow, turning into specks of light that dissipated. The entire place was silent. The expression on Xiao Tianzi's face completely froze. Ling Qingshue's hand holding the child also tightened. I slowly stood up. The course hunter's clothes on my body moved without wind, rustling. The blood stain on my face had disappeared, and my skin became as smooth as jade, but the domineering and sinister aura emanating from my bones caused the world to lose its color. I didn't look at Xiao Tianzi. My gaze passed over him and landed on Ling Qingxue, or rather, on the son in her arms. My son. No one can take him away. Return him to me. My voice was no longer hoarse, but became calm, yet with an unquestionable authority, like a decree from the heavenly Tao that must be obeyed. Xiao Tianzi was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, both shocked and angry. You? Who exactly are you? I finally glanced at him, my eyes like looking at an insignificant speck of dust. You are not worthy to know. The moment the words fell, I moved. One step out. My figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Xiao Tianzi's pupils contracted violently. He didn't even see my movements clearly, only felt a terrifying pressure that made his soul tremble, crashing towards him. He subconsciously wanted to activate his celestial power to resist, but found that the spiritual energy in his body seemed to be frozen and couldn't be mobilized at all. The next second, I appeared between him and Ling Qingxue like a ghost. There were no earth-shattering spells, nor dazzling brilliance. I simply reached out and reached for Ling Yan in Ling Qingshue's arms. The movement was very slow, very gentle, as if not seizing, but taking back something that already belonged to me. Ling Qingxue reacted extremely quickly. After all, she was an immortal from the upper realm. Almost the instant I appeared, a bone-chilling cold aura erupted from her body, and a crystal-clear ice sword condensed in her hand, stabbing towards my chest without hesitation. "Get out!" she shouted sharply. This sword was her natal supernatural ability, Xianbing's sword Qi, enough to freeze hundreds of miles. However, that incomparably sharp ice sword, the moment it touched the skin on my chest. Crack! A crisp sound. The ice sword shattered inch by inch, turning into a sky full of ice crystals. And I was unharmed. In Ling Qingshue's eyes, for the first time, there was true horror. Her Xianbing, sword Qi, was actually shattered by the flesh of a mortal. How is that possible? Just as she was in a daze, my hand had already gently picked up my son. Ling Yin returned to my arms, his small body still trembling slightly. He hugged my neck tightly, buried his face in my shoulder, and sobbed softly, "Daddy, I am scared." I gently patted his back. My voice was gentler than ever before. "Ninner, don't be afraid. Daddy is here." This tenderness formed a bizarre and harmonious unity with the overbearing demonic aura on my body. "You're courting death." He, a dignified genius from the upper realm, was actually robbed of his person in front of him by a mortal ant in his eyes. This was a great humiliation. He sacrificed a golden treasure seal. The treasure seal grew in the wind, turning into a small mountain size, with the momentum of suppressing everything crashing down on my head. "Die for me." I held my son, not even turning my head. I just spit out a word indifferently. "Shatter." What I said became reality. That overwhelming golden treasure seal suddenly stagnated in the air, and then its surface was covered with spider web-like cracks. Bang! With a loud noise, the treasure seal exploded into a sky full of golden powder in the air. Xiao Tian's mind was injured when his magic weapon was destroyed. He spurted out a large mouthful of blood, and his face instantly turned as pale as paper. He staggered back a few steps, his face full of disbelief. "You? Who exactly are you? You are not a mortal. You are definitely not a mortal." Ling Qingxue also stood there blankly, her delicate body trembling slightly. She looked at me holding the child, looked at the aura on my body that was both familiar and unfamiliar to her. Familiar because of the 3 years of being together day and night. Unfamiliar because the essence of this aura was a terrifying thing that she had never seen before. It was a kind of absolute dominance and antiquity that was above everything immortal, God, and saint that she knew. I finally turned around, holding my son, and walked toward them step by step. With each step, the earth seemed to be mourning. I walked to Xiao Tian's and looked down at him. 1 million. I laughed, laughing somewhat cruelly. To buy my life. Xiao Tian's hair stood on end from my gaze, and a gurgling, strange noise came from his throat, unable to utter a complete sentence. An ant dares to use money to measure gods and demons? Ridiculous. I raised my foot. Then I fell heavily. Crack. A crisp sound of bone cracking. I stepped on his knee. Ah! Xiao Tian's let out a pig-killing scream. His whole person knelt uncontrollably in front of me. His kneecap had been completely shattered. This kick is for my son to return to you. I was expressionless, my voice cold. You said just now that I am his burden? My foot slowly lifted and moved to his other leg. Xiao Tian's was scared out of his wits, weeping and wailing. No, no, Senior, spare me. I was blind. I deserved to die. Too late. Crack. Another bone fracture. Both of his legs were completely crippled. After doing all this, it was as if I had only crushed 2 ants. My eyes remained unchanged. I held my son and looked at Ling Qingxue one last time. Her face was pale, her lips trembled, looking at Xiao Tian's kneeling on the ground, howling in pain, and then at me, her eyes filled with fear, confusion, and a hint of regret that even she hadn't noticed. You. She wanted to say something, but found her voice was also trembling. I looked at this face that had once fascinated me, but felt no ripple in my heart, only cold indifference. Ling Qingxue. I slowly opened my mouth. You're going through your love tribulation, but you've awakened the ancient demon within me. You said that you and I ultimately belong to different worlds. You were right. I held my son and brushed past her. But you got one thing wrong. It's not that I'm not worthy of your world. It's that your world doesn't have the right to contain me. I held Lin Yin and walked down the mountain without looking back. Behind me were Xiao Tian's heart-wrenching screams and Ling Qingxue's figure, frozen as if struck by lightning. Daddy, where are we going? Lin Yin asked softly in my arms. His voice still had a sob in it, but it was clear that he was much calmer. I lowered my head, looking at my son's little face that resembled mine, and the monstrous killing intent and ferocity in my heart were replaced by a trace of tenderness. Daddy will take you to a place where no one can bully us. What about Mommy? Hearing this question, my steps faltered slightly. I was silent for a moment before slowly saying, she has her own path to walk. From now on, only Daddy will be with Nyener. Lin Yin nodded, as if understanding, and stopped talking, just hugged my neck tighter. As my memories continued to recover, I knew that this small mountain village, even this world, was no longer suitable for me to stay. Ling Qingxue and Xiao Tian's came from the so-called upper realm. In my awakened memories, that was just a higher plane with slightly denser spiritual energy. A group of cultivators who considered themselves immortals were no different from ants in my eyes. But since they could come down, it meant that there was a passage between the 2 realms. Xiao Tian's was crippled. Ling Qingxue's Dao heart was damaged, and the forces behind them would soon come looking for them. I didn't care, but Nyener couldn't. He was still just a mortal child, unable to withstand any repercussions from immortal or demonic forces. I had to take him away as soon as possible, find a safe place, and then completely get rid of these annoying flies. I held Lin Yin, seemingly walking slowly, but shrinking the ground. Each step was 100 meters away. In less than the time it takes to burn an incense stick, we had already arrived at Qingyang City, 100 miles away. This was a city I had visited several times before to buy Qingxue and Nyener clothes and snacks that weren't available in the mountains. Stepping into it again, now, my state of mind was completely different. Tall buildings, heavy traffic. The air was filled with a mundane atmosphere and mixed spiritual energy. I was wearing a set of worn hunting clothes, holding a child, walking on the bustling street, out of tune with the surrounding glamorous urban people, attracting a lot of strange glances. But I didn't care at all. My divine sense spread out like a tide, instantly covering the entire city. I needed money. In this mortal world, Money was the most useful thing. Soon, my divine sense locked onto a large underground casino. Filth, greed, desire. These negative emotions were, on the contrary, the most familiar taste to me. I held Nyenner and walked straight towards the building where the casino was located. Stop! What are you doing? Two burly men in black suits, with fierce faces, stopped me at the door. They looked me up and down, their eyes filled with contempt. Where did this beggar come from? Bringing a child here to beg? Get lost! Lin Yen was frightened by their fierce appearance and shrank in my arms. A cold light flashed in my eyes. Without any nonsense, I just raised my eyelids and glanced at them lightly. Boom! The two burly men only felt an indescribable terrifying will rush into their minds, as if they had seen a peerless demon god stepping on a mountain of corpses and blood, looking down at them indifferently. Their bodies instantly stiffened, cold sweat soaked their backs, their legs went weak, and with a thump they knelt on the ground, their teeth chattering nonstop, unable to utter a word of pleading. I held my son and walked past them without looking sideways, as if they were just two stones. It wasn't until I stepped into the elevator that the terrifying pressure vanished. Two burly men were slumped on the ground, gasping for breath, their crotches wet and steaming. They had actually been scared into urinating. The surrounding passers-by were dumbfounded, completely clueless as to what had happened. The casino was on the third basement level. The elevator doors opened, and deafening music and clamor assaulted me. Holding my son, I slowly entered this world of extravagant decadence. A waitress dressed in a bunny girl costume saw me and immediately frowned, approaching me. Sir, this is a private club. If you're... Before she could finish, I interrupted her. Where's your boss? My voice wasn't loud, but it clearly cut through the noise of the entire casino. The bunny girl was stunned. The gambling patrons, who were caught up in their revelry, also instinctively looked in my direction. When they saw my attire, which was completely out of place here, they were first taken aback, then burst into uproarious laughter. Damn, where did this hit come from? And he's holding a kid. Did he get lost? The vegetable market next door welcomes you. Ha ha ha, looking for a boss? Do you even know who our boss is? A pot-bellied man, reeking of alcohol and wearing a thick gold chain, staggered up to me and extended a greasy finger, almost poking me in the face. Kid, I don't care who you are. Now, immediately, take your burden and get the hell out of here. Otherwise, I'll make sure you leave here horizontally. Lin Yin, in my arms, was so frightened his face turned pale. The last trace of warmth in my eyes disappeared. I slowly raised my hand and grabbed the fat man's finger pointing at me. Then gently I snapped it. Crack! Aya! The fat man's finger bent backward at a grotesque angle, emitting a heart-wrenching scream. The laughter of the entire casino came to an abrupt halt. Dead silence. The entire casino was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone stared wide-eyed, unable to believe what they were seeing. That gold-chain fat man was a well-known local tyrant in Qingyang City, known as Brother Biao, and he had dozens of thugs under his command. He was always used to getting his way. Now, he was like a chicken with its neck stepped on, clutching his broken finger, writhing in pain on the ground, his screams making everyone's scalp tingle. I released his hand as if I was just brushing off a bit of dust. Holding my son, I scanned the entire room. Those gamblers who had been laughing at me just now all lowered their heads, not daring to meet my gaze. My gaze finally landed on the petrified bunny girl. Now, can you tell me, where's your boss? The bunny girl trembled, her lips quivering, and pointed to a private room at the deepest part of the casino. Brother Bao is in the heaven suite. I nodded, holding my son, and walked straight toward that private room. Where I walked, the crowd parted to the sides like the Red Sea, making way for me. Soon, I arrived at the entrance to the heaven suite. Two black-suited bodyguards guarding the door saw me coming and immediately warily reached out to stop me. Stop! Brother Bao has important guests inside, no entry. I didn't bother wasting words with them. I took a step forward with my left foot and gently bumped them with my right shoulder. Bang! The thick solid-wood door, along with the two bodyguards, were sent flying backward by my impact. Amidst the flying splinters of wood, I held my son and slowly stepped into the private room. Inside the private room, the air was thick with smoke. A bald, tattooed, and fierce-looking middle-aged man was drinking with several scantily clad women on both sides of him. He was the owner of this casino, Brother Bao. Opposite him sat an old man in a Tang suit, with his eyes closed in meditation. The old man's temples were bulging high, and his breathing was long and steady. He was clearly a trained martial artist. The loud crash of the door being broken open startled everyone in the room. Brother Bao jumped up abruptly, and when he saw me at the door and the bodyguards groaning on the floor, his face instantly turned as dark as ink. "Damn, who the hell are you? Daring to make trouble in my place? Are you tired of living?" The women around him screamed in fright and hid to the side. Another noisy ant. I ignored him. My gaze landed on the old man in the Tang suit, because I sensed a faint aura of a cultivator on him. Although it was pitifully weak, it was still different from ordinary people. The old man in the Tang suit also opened his eyes at this moment, and two flashes of keen light flickered past. He looked at me, his brows furrowed tightly. Who might you be? He couldn't see through me. Before my awakened demon lord soul, his meager cultivation was like a firefly compared to the bright moon. I could feel that he was nervous. Brother Bao, however, didn't have such discerning eyes. Seeing me ignoring him, he was immediately enraged. Damn it! Still dare to ignore me. He picked up a gleaming machete from under the table, pointed it at me, and roared, "I don't care who you are. If I don't chop you up and feed you to the dogs today, my name isn't Wang Bao." With that, he rushed towards me with the machete. "Brother Bao, don't." The old man in a Tang suit's expression changed drastically, and he tried to stop him, but it was too late. Wang Bao had already reached me, the machete in his hand carrying a vicious wind, fiercely chopping towards my head. I held my son and stood there, motionless. Just as the blade was about to fall, I extended two fingers, index and middle fingers, then gently pinched. Clang! A crisp sound of metal clashing. The machete that could cut through bone was held steadily by my two fingers. The blade was less than an inch from my forehead, but that inch of distance was like a chasm, impossible to advance even a fraction of an inch further. The ferocity and madness on Wang Bao's face instantly froze. He used all his strength, his face flushed red, but he couldn't move the blade forward even a millimeter. How could this be? The power of his strike could split an ox in half. It was actually held by two fingers? Too noisy. Then I exerted a slight force with my fingers. Crack! The machete made of refined steel snapped in response. I held half of the blade, flicked my wrist. The broken blade turned into a cold light, instantly flew past Wang Bao's ear, and deeply embedded itself in the marble wall behind him. The entire blade submerged. Wang Bao froze in place, afraid to move. A strand of hair, along with a few drops of blood, slowly floated down from the side of his ear. If that strike had been an inch off, his head would have been pierced. Gulp! Wang Bao swallowed hard. The hilt of the knife fell to the ground with a clang, his legs went weak, and he collapsed directly to the ground, his crotch quickly becoming wet. At this moment, the old man in the Tang suit finally stood up. He respectfully clasped his fist towards me and bowed deeply. I didn't realize a senior was gracing us with their presence. Chun Jingji, was blind and ignorant. I hope the senior will forgive me. His bow startled Wang Bao, who was almost scared out of his wits. Elder Chun. Elder Chun was a master he had hired at great expense, a legendary martial arts grandmaster, a godlike figure who could even dodge bullets. Now, he was giving such a great gift to this country bumpkin-holding child and calling himself a junior. I glanced at Chun Jingji. Are you a cultivator? Chun Jingji's body trembled, and he replied even more respectfully, I wouldn't dare. This junior just fortunately stepped into the threshold of chi refining. In the eyes of the immortal masters in the upper realms, I am nothing more than an ant. In front of you, Senior, I am even less than dust. He was very smart. He sensed from me a terrifying pressure that made him unable to even think about resisting. This was definitely not a mortal martial artist, not even an ordinary immortal master. This was something he couldn't understand, couldn't imagine. A great power. Very good. I need money. Also, a quiet place for my son to sleep. Hearing this, Chun Jingji did not hesitate at all and immediately turned around and kicked the still trembling Wang Bao. Wan Bao, what are you still standing there for? Didn't you hear what the senior said? Quickly, hand over all your belongings and the best villa in Qingyang City immediately. Right now, dedicate them to the senior. Chun Jingji's kick shocked Wang Bao back to his senses from the fear of death. He crawled and knelt in front of me, kowtowing like pounding garlic. Senior, spare me. This lowly one was blind and did not recognize Mount Tai, an offended senior. Money. I'll give you all my money. Villa. I have a villa on Cloud Top Mountain. It's the best in Qingyang City. I'll dedicate it to you too. He didn't dare to be disrespectful in the slightest now. The person in front of him was a senior that even Elder Chun had to kneel to, a god who could break steel knives with his fingers. Not to mention money and villas. Even if he won his life, he wouldn't dare to say half a word. I didn't look at him, but said to Chun Jingji, go do it. Yes, senior. Chun Jingji was granted amnesty and immediately pulled up the still trembling Wang Bao and scurried out of the private room. Soon, the entire casino was in turmoil. All the gamblers were driven out, and the casino staff, under Wang Bao's roars, were frantically counting cash and assets. In less than half an hour, Chun Jingji held a black bank card and a bunch of keys, and once again came to me respectfully. Senior, this card contains all of Wang Bao's liquid assets, approximately 500 million, without a password. This is the key to Villa Number 1 on Cloud Top Mountain, and the property transfer procedures are being expedited. Lin Yin in my arms, perhaps tired, had already fallen asleep. I took the card and keys and nodded. You stay, I said to Chun Jingji. Chun Jingji's body trembled, and a look of ecstasy instantly flooded his face. He knew this was an incredible opportunity, being able to serve this unfathomable senior by his side, even as a beast of burden, was better than 100 years of his own arduous cultivation. Yes, thank you, senior. He excitedly knelt again. I ignored him, holding my sleeping son, and turned to leave the casino. Chun Jingji immediately followed, leading the way for me. Cloud Top Mountain Villa Number 1. Located in the most exclusive, rich area of Qingyang City, it occupied thousands of square meters, complete with gardens and a swimming pool, decorated in extreme luxury. I had Chun Jingji find 2 reliable nannies to take care of Lin Yin's daily life, and then I went alone to the quiet room on the top floor of the villa. Sitting cross-legged, I began to sort through those awakened memories in my mind. The primordial demon lord, an ancient existence born at the beginning of the universe's chaos. My memories were of endless conquests and killings, of climbing to the apex of all realms by stepping on the corpses of countless gods, demons, immortals, and Buddhas. Later, I grew tired of it. Invincibility was the greatest loneliness. So, I severed my divine soul, sealed all my power and memories, and entered reincarnation just to experience the purest mortal life. I became an orphan adopted by an old hunter and grew up in the mountains. Then I met Ling Qingshu. She fell from the sky, seriously injured, and I saved her. We fell in love, got married, and had a son. I thought this was the ordinary life and happiness I was looking for. I even forgot who I was. Until today, she personally shattered my dream, and personally unlocked my seal. I slowly opened my eyes, demonic light flowing within. Ling Qingxue Xiao Tianza, you think ruining you is the end of it. No, this is just the beginning. With a thought, a strand of dark demonic energy overflowed from my fingertip. This strand of demonic energy was the demon seed I had planted in Xiao Tianzi. Through it, I could clearly sense his current location and state. The scene appeared in my mind. A desolate mountain 100 miles outside Qingyang City. Ling Qingxue was pale, constantly pouring her immortal power into Xiao Tianzi's body, healing him. Xiao Tianzi's legs were completely ruined. He leaned against a rock, his face full of resentment and madness. Qingxue, that bastard. I must kill him. I must tear him to pieces. I want him to watch as I torture his son. Ling Qingxue's body trembled slightly, a complex emotion flashing in her eyes. But she quickly suppressed it and said coldly, "Shut up. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? What we need to do now is to immediately contact the sect. Report everything that happened here. This person is definitely not an ordinary person. He is likely to be a reincarnated old demon. Only the sect elders can suppress him." Xiao Tianzi also calmed down somewhat upon hearing this. He gritted his teeth and took out a jade talisman from his chest, injecting immortal power into it. "That's right. Contact the sect. My father is an elder of the Heavenly Sword sect. He will definitely avenge me. And that little bastard, when I catch him, I will personally crush all the bones in his body." The jade talisman lit up, and a phantom slowly emerged. It was a dignified middle-aged Taoist, the Heavenly Sword sect elder, Xiao Tianzi's father, Xiao Chongfeng. "Sir, why are you so flustered?" The phantom spoke, its voice stern. "Father, save me. My legs have been crippled in the lower realm." Xiao Tianzi cried and exaggerated the story, only saying that a lower realm demon ambushed him and Ling Qingxue. Xiao Chongfeng's phantom was furious after listening. "Preposterous. A mere lower realm ant dares to injure my son. Virtuous niece Qingxue, please take care of Sir. I will immediately gather men and activate the realm-breaking formation. In 3 days at most, my Heavenly Sword sect army will descend into this realm. At that time, we will definitely destroy that demon's soul and spirit to vent my son's hatred." After the phantom finished speaking, it disappeared. Xiao Tianzi had a hideous smile on his face. "Did you hear that? 3 days. 3 days at most. My father will bring people. At that time, I will make that bastard beg for death." Ling Qingxue was silent, just looking in the direction of Qingyang City in the distance, her eyes incredibly complex. In the quiet room, I slowly withdrew my divine sense, a cold arc forming at the corner of my mouth. 3 days. Heavenly Sword sect. Good. Saves me from having to look for them one by one. I'll just let you. I'll come and die. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked down at the brightly lit city below. From today on, this city will become my demonic domain. And 3 days later, this place will become the upper realm immortals. Graveyard. I didn't go out for the next 3 days. Most of the time, I stayed by Lin Yin's side. I told him stories, played with him, and cooked delicious food for him using the finest ingredients. Children are forgetful. With my company and a good environment, Lin Yin quickly forgot the unpleasantness of that day, and a naive and innocent smile returned to his face. Looking at his smiling face, the violence and loneliness brought about by the revival of my memories were also diluted a lot. This is what I want. Whoever dares to destroy this dies. Chun Jingji, on the other hand, played the role of a housekeeper to the best of his ability. He kept the villa inside and out in perfect order and treated me with the reverence of a god, daring not to be negligent in the slightest. He knew he was witnessing the beginning of a legend. For these 3 days, Qingyang City was calm on the surface, but the upper class had already stirred up a storm. The underground emperor, Wang Bao, had gone bankrupt overnight and become a dog. And Qingyang City's only martial arts grandmaster, Chun Jingji, was willingly acting as a housekeeper for a mysterious young man. All of this pointed to the mysterious man holding the child. Countless forces were secretly investigating my origins, but all came up empty. It was as if I had appeared out of nowhere. The more they investigated, the more afraid they became. But I didn't care about the thoughts of these mortals at all. My gaze was always locked on the sky. I was waiting for those self-righteous immortals to come and die. The third day, dusk. I was piling up blocks with Lin Yin in the garden. Suddenly, I looked up at the sky. They've arrived. Outside the villa. Chen Jingji also sensed something. His face changed drastically, and he rushed into the garden. Senior, there is a powerful aura approaching. I hummed faintly and touched Lin Yin's head. Niner, you go back to the house with Grandma Wang and watch cartoons first. Daddy will take care of something and be right back. Okay. Lin Yin nodded obediently and was led back to the villa by the nanny. I stood up and patted the dust off my hands. Chen Jingji, Junior is here. Guard the villa. Without my permission, no one is allowed to step into the garden. Yes, Senior. Chen Jingji replied respectfully, his eyes full of worry. He could feel that the enemy coming this time was much more terrifying than he imagined. In the sky, the wind and clouds surged. A huge spatial rift was torn open above Qingyang City. Golden light shone, and immortal music played. A huge tower ship, hundreds of feet long, slowly sailed out of the rift and hovered above the city. On the tower ship, banners fluttered, embroidered with the image of a sharp sword. Hundreds of heavenly soldiers wearing golden armor and holding long halberds stood on both sides, their aura solemn. On the deck of the tower ship, a middle-aged Taoist with a majestic face stood with his hands behind his back. It was the elder of the Heavenly Sword sect, Xiao Changfeng. Beside him stood several elders with equally powerful auras. Such an earth-shattering scene instantly alarmed the entire Qingyang city. Countless citizens ran out of their homes, looking up at the sky, their faces filled with shock and panic. What is that? A mirage? No, it's real. It's a god. Gods have descended. Is the end of the world coming? Panic spread. Xiao Changfeng lowered his head, looking down at the crowd below like ants, without a trace of pity in his eyes, only cold indifference. His divine sense scanned the entire city like radar, quickly locking onto my location. Oomph! An old demon who hasn't even reached the nascent soul stage dares to hurt my child? Seeking death. His voice was not loud, but it was like rolling thunder exploding above the entire Qingyang city. Lower realm demon, come out and die. The voice contained a powerful pressure. The weaker mortals were directly shaken to the point of vomiting blood and losing consciousness. Chen Jingji in the villa was even more severely struck, his face as white as a sheet. Is this the power of an immortal master from the upper realm? Just one sentence made him feel the threat of death. He looked at the figure in the garden, his heart full of apprehension. Senior, can he really handle this? I slowly raised my head, my gaze piercing through the clouds, and met Xiao Changfeng's eyes on the tower ship. Noisy, I uttered 2 words faintly. The voice was also not loud, but it clearly entered the ears of everyone on the tower ship. Xiao Changfeng frowned. An elder beside him snorted coldly. Sect leader, why waste words with such a demon? Let me go down and take his head. After saying that, he took a step forward, transformed into a sword light, descended from the sky, and headed straight for the villa where I was. Before he arrived, the sword energy had already sealed off the space within 1,000 meters. That sharp sword intent caused cracks to appear on the ground. A nascent soul stage cultivator? The corners of my lips curled into a disdainful sneer. Good, I'll kill one first to wake them up a bit. Facing that terrifying sword light descending from the sky, seemingly capable of splitting the entire mountain in 2, I remained standing still, without moving an inch. I simply slowly raised a hand. Then I lightly clenched it toward the sky. Freeze! In an instant, the wind stopped. The clouds stilled. That extremely fast sword light, along with the elder's figure, froze strangely in midair, 100 meters above the ground. Time seemed to have been paused at that moment. On the floating ship, the sneers on Xiao Changfeng and the others' faces instantly froze. The elder maintained his diving posture, his eyes filled with extreme terror and disbelief. He realized he couldn't move. Not only his body, but even the nascent soul and his soul within were completely imprisoned by an irresistible force. What kind of divine power was this? Word becoming law? Spatial confinement? No. Impossible. He struggled to squeeze out a few words from his throat. I raised my head, looking at the figure in the sky like a mosquito in amber, and said calmly, I said it's too noisy. Then, the hand I was holding clenched violently. Shatter. Bang. A sound 100 times louder than the thunder just now. In the sky, that arrogant heavenly sword sect elder, along with his prized sword light and nascent soul, instantly exploded into a cloud of blood mist in front of everyone. Soul and body destroyed. Not even a trace of residue remained. For a moment, heaven and earth lost their voices. The entire Qingyang city fell into a dead silence. On the floating ship, Xiao Changfeng and the other elders were like ghosts, their bodies ice cold. The blood mist slowly dispersed in the air, staining half the sky red. On the floating ship, it was completely silent. The color visibly drained from the faces of Xiao Changfeng and the other heavenly sword sect elders, replaced by endless shock and fear. Dead. An elder in the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm, without even getting close to the opponent, was killed by a single sentence, a single action. What level of power was this? Transformation God? Returning to void? Or a legendary tribulation transcending expert? Impossible. In this kind of lower realm, the laws were incomplete, the spiritual energy was thin. How could such a terrifying existence be born? Father, how? How could this be? A trembling voice rang out. It was Xiao Tianzi. Supported by someone, he stood behind Xiao Changfeng, looking at the blood mist in the sky, his teeth chattering with fear. He originally thought that his father, bringing the sex experts, would crush that monster as easily as crushing an ant. But now, that ant, in his eyes, had slapped an elephant to death with a wave of his hand. Xiao Changfeng didn't answer him. He stared fixedly at the back figure, standing calmly in the villa garden below, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. He knew that this time, he had kicked an iron plate, and it was a piece of eternal divine iron strong enough to shatter the entire heavenly sword sect. Excellency, who exactly are you? Xiao Changfeng's voice no longer held its previous majesty and arrogance, but was instead filled with trembling and awe. Please forgive us, Your Excellency. We had no intention of offending you. It was just that my ignorant son offended you, Senior. I am willing to pay any price. I only ask that you quell your anger. In the villa garden, I slowly lowered my hand, my face devoid of any expression. Now you know to be afraid? Too late. When you moved against my son, why didn't you think about the consequences? I didn't answer him, but instead raised my head, my gaze sweeping over the huge floating ship. Come down. These mere 2 words seemed to contain the will of heaven and earth. The giant floating ship, hovering thousands of meters in the air, shook violently, and then uncontrollably plummeted straight towards the ground. No. Stabilize. Quickly stabilize the formation. The heavenly sword sect disciples on the floating ship screamed in terror, frantically channeling spiritual energy into the formation core, trying to stabilize the ship. But it was useless. Before my will, their paltry strength was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. A deafening sound shook the heavens and the earth. The massive warship crashed heavily into a patch of open ground on the outskirts of Qingyang City, smashing a pit tens of meters deep into the earth. The ship's hull was fractured and the formation shattered. Hundreds of disciples of the heavenly sword sect on board suffered heavy casualties, their wails echoing across the land. Xiao Changfeng and several elders, relying on their powerful cultivation, barely escaped injury, but were in a disheveled state, covered in dust and dirt. They crawled out of the wreckage, looking at the apocalyptic scene before them, their faces ashen. A single word could cause a celestial ship to fall. Could this truly be a level attainable by human power? With my arms crossed, step by step, I walked from the Cloud Peak Villa, traversing the air towards the fallen warship. I walked slowly, but each step seemed to tread upon the hearts of the Heavenly Sword sect members. Soon, I arrived above the giant pit, overlooking them from above. "You are his father?" My gaze fell upon Xiao Changfeng. Xiao Changfeng trembled all over and quickly knelt on the ground, burying his head deeply in the dirt. "Senior, spare me." This one was lacking in discipline. This one was blind. The other elders and disciples, who could still move, also knelt down, trembling, not daring to breathe loudly. Only Xiao Tianze remained standing stupidly. He looked at me, his eyes filled with not only fear, but also deep resentment and unwillingness. "Why? Why is this happening? You are clearly just a mortal hunter, a good-for-nothing abandoned by Qingshu." Slap! A crisp sound of slap. Xiao Changfeng suddenly jumped up and slapped Xiao Tianze's face hard, sending him flying, knocking out several teeth. "You rebellious son! You still dare to speak nonsense!" Xiao Changfeng trembled with anger. He wanted to kill his own son right then and there. Why did he have to provoke such a killing god? He knelt down again, kowtowing frantically to me. "Senior, my son is already mad. Please, for the sake of his youth and ignorance, spare his life. My Heavenly Sword sect is willing to serve Senior as beasts of burden for eternity." I looked at him, expressionless. "I ask you, 3 days ago, was it you who said you would destroy my soul and spirit?" Xiao Changfeng's body stiffened abruptly, and cold sweat instantly soaked his back. I. He couldn't say a word. "Was it you who said you would torture my son?" My voice suddenly turned cold. A visible black, demonic energy rose from my body, soaring into the sky. The entire Qingyang city was instantly enveloped by an extreme coldness and desolation. The sky darkened, as if from daylight. It had instantly entered an eternal night. Everyone felt a tremor that came from the depths of their souls. Xiao Changfeng and the others raised their heads, staring at me in horror. In their eyes, an endless sea of corpses and blood seemed to appear behind me, and a towering ancient demon god shadow was slowly opening its blood-colored eyes that disregarded all living beings. Demon Lord! Xiao Changfeng let out a desperate scream. He finally recognized the source of this aura. It was the forbidden of all forbidden, recorded in the sect scriptures. It was the ancient demon lord who had once slaughtered the 9 heavens and 10 earths, making the gods and Buddhas of all worlds tremble. He was still not dead. He had even reincarnated in this lower realm plane. And his son, against all odds, had provoked a living demon lord. It's over. Everything is over. The last spark of hope in Xiao Changfeng's eyes was completely extinguished. "Now, do you still want me to spare you?" I floated in the air, my voice hollow and majestic, amplified by the demonic energy, like a judgment from the 9 nether hells. Xiao Changfeng collapsed to the ground, his face ashen, lacking even the courage to beg for mercy. Many of the elders and disciples behind him were directly shattered in mind by this terrifying pressure and died on the spot. "No, I don't want to die." Xiao Tianze got up from the ground, his face full of madness. "I am a young master of the Heavenly Sword sect. My future wife is the holy maiden of the Lingxiao Palace. You can't kill me." He roared hysterically. "Ling Qingxue?" Hearing this name, a hint of mockery appeared on the corner of my mouth. "Soon, she will come down to accompany you." As soon as the words fell, I raised my hand and grabbed toward Xiao Tianze, a non-existent grasp. An invisible force choked his throat, lifting him from the ground and suspending him in the air. Ugh! Ugh! Xiao Tianze grabbed his neck tightly with both hands, kicking his feet wildly in the air, his face turning liver-colored from suffocation. "Father, save me!" He struggled to beg Xiao Changfeng for help. Xiao Changfeng closed his eyes, 2 lines of turbid tears streaming down his face. "Save? How to save?" In the face of the demon lord, their entire heavenly sword sect was nothing more than a nest of slightly stronger ants. Stop! Just then, a clear and cold, delicate shout came from the sky. A streak of icy blue sword light tore through the night sky, shrouded in demonic energy, falling like a meteor. The sword light dissipated, revealing a stunningly beautiful figure, dressed in white, like snow, her beauty unparalleled. It was Ling Qingxue. In the end, she was still worried and followed. When she saw the scene before her, she was completely stunned. The crashed Flochon building ship, corpses everywhere, Xiao Chongfeng kneeling in despair, and Xiao Tiance, whose throat was gripped by me, on the verge of life and death. And me, the one hovering in the air, surrounded by overwhelming demonic energy, like the master of hell. Was this still the honest hunter who had accompanied her in the mountains for 3 years? The huge contrast left her mind blank. Let him go. Ling Qingxue snapped back to reality, her voice trembling as she spoke. She summoned her natal ice sword, pointing it at me from afar. I glanced at her, my eyes without the slightest ripple, as if looking at a stranger. You're ordering me? Ling Qingxue's heart trembled at my gaze, but she still mustered her courage and said, Limu, I know you're not ordinary, but Xiao Tiance is the young master of the Heavenly Sword Sect. His father is an elder of the sect. If you kill him, the Heavenly Sword Sect won't let you off. Even if you're not thinking about yourself, you should think about Nyener. She actually wanted to threaten me with my son. I laughed. I laughed with boundless irony. Heavenly Sword Sect. It was as if I had heard the biggest joke in the world. In my eyes, it's no different from this pile of scrap metal on the ground. As for Nyener, my gaze suddenly turned cold. Are you even worthy to mention his name? Ling Qingxue, do you think I wouldn't dare to kill you? Ling Qingxue's face turned pale as she staggered back a step. From my words, she heard undisguised, killing intent. At this moment, she truly realized that the man before her was no longer the Li Mu who had been obedient to her in every way. This was a demon she didn't understand at all, capricious and decisive in killing. No. Don't. She saw my fingers slowly tightening. Xiao Tiance had already started rolling his eyes. Li Mu, I beg you, don't kill him. Ling Qingxue finally abandoned all her pride and superiority, her voice laced with sobs. As long as you let him go, I'll agree to anything you want. I'll go back with you. We'll be like before, okay? She thought I still cared about her. She thought everything I was doing was to make her change her mind. How pathetic. How laughable. Now you want to turn back? What do you take me for? A dog to be summoned and dismissed at will? Like before, I looked at her and slowly shook my head. We can't go back. From the moment you took my son and said I was just a karmic tribulation of love. In your life, we could never go back. After speaking, I stopped looking at her. I looked at Xiao Tiance, who was already on his last breath in my hand, and said faintly, Next life, when you reincarnate, keep your eyes open. Then my 5 fingers suddenly clenched. Crack! A crisp sound of bones breaking. Xiao Tiance's neck was snapped by me. His body twitched twice, then was completely lifeless. I casually tossed him away, his corpse falling from the sky like a dead dog, landing in front of Xiao Chongfeng. No! Xiao Chongfeng let out a desperate roar. Suer! My Suer! He hugged his son's corpse, old tears streaming down his face. As for Ling Qingxue, she completely froze in place like an ice sculpture. She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear, incomprehension, and a trace of heartache that even she herself couldn't express. She didn't understand why things had turned out this way. I killed Xiao Tiance, in front of his father, in front of Ling Qingxue. As simple as crushing an ant. The whole world seemed to fall silent. Xiao Chongfeng held his son's corpse, no longer roaring, only silently weeping, his eyes hollow, as if he had aged decades in an instant. The survivors of the Heavenly Sword Sect had even forgotten to breathe, fearing that they would be the next to die. Ling Qingxue stood not far away, her white clothes stained with dust, her exquisite face covered in tears, lost and disoriented. I slowly descended from the sky, standing at the edge of the giant crater. Demonic energy gradually retracted into my body, and the sky also regained its clarity. But the aura of looking down upon all things on my body did not diminish in the slightest. Yo, I looked at Xiao Changfeng. Do you want to avenge him? Xiao Changfeng's body trembled, and he slowly raised his head, looking at me, his eyes filled with bloodshot. Revenge. With what could he take revenge? He gave a bitter laugh, his voice hoarse. Demon Lord, you yist. My son deserved to die. Offending you, his death is not to be regretted. I only beg the Demon Lord to leave the Heavenly Sword sect. A single thread of incense. As he spoke, he actually kowtowed to me again. A generation of sect elders, a great cultivator in the transformation god stage, was now humble to the extreme. This is power. Absolute power can crush all dignity and hatred. I looked at him, non-committal. Then, my gaze turned to Ling Qingxue. She was also looking at me, her eyes filled with extreme complexity. There was fear, regret, and confusion. What about you? I asked her. He was your benefactor. I killed him. Do you also want to avenge him? Ling Qingxue's lips moved, but she couldn't utter a single word. Revenge. She didn't even have the courage to look me in the eye. That man was her karmic entanglement, and this man in front of her was her inner demon, the nightmare that she had personally pushed away, yet could never reach. She finally spoke, her voice choked with sobs. Limu, I am sorry. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I didn't know it would be like this. I thought it was just a mortal experience. I didn't want to leave you and Yenner. Can you forgive me? Let's go home. Let's raise Yenner together. She walked towards me, reaching out her hand, wanting to grab the corner of my clothes, just like countless times before. What's the point of saying all this now? My heart died the moment you left with Yenner. The one alive now is the Demon Lord. I took a step back, avoiding her hand. My action was like a sharp knife, piercing deeply into her heart. Ling Qingxue's hand froze in midair, the color draining from her face in an instant. She understood. Everything was irreversible. I looked at her, my gaze cold and indifferent. Ling Qingxue, your biggest mistake was not treating me as your karmic entanglement. But you shouldn't have. Touch my son. From now on, there will be no connection between you and me. You walk your sunny road, I cross my single plank bridge. But my tone turned cold. You and the Lingxiao Palace behind you. Better pray that you don't appear in front of me again. Otherwise, I didn't finish my sentence, but the undisguised killing intent had already caused the surrounding temperature to drop several degrees. Scram! I waved my hand as if swatting a fly. Before I change my mind, take these wastes and disappear completely from my world. Xiao Changfeng was as if he had been granted amnesty, and immediately pulled up the still disoriented Ling Qingxue, and the other survivors, scrambling and embarrassed, climbed onto the half-wrecked sky ship. They used their last strength to activate the sky ship, tearing open a spatial rift, and fled in a panic from this nightmarish place that they would never forget. Soon, only corpses and ruins remained around the giant crater. And me, I stood for a long time. Until the night wind blew, I turned around and walked step by step back to the villa on Yunding Mountain. In the garden, the lights were bright. Chun Jingji was anxiously waiting at the door. Seeing me return, he breathed a long sigh of relief and quickly stepped forward to greet me. Senior, he wanted to ask something, but seeing my calm expression, he swallowed his words back. Where's Yenner? I asked. The young master is already asleep. I nodded and walked straight into the villa. Pushing open Lin Yin's door, I saw him sleeping peacefully in bed, listening to his even breathing. The churning demonic thoughts in my heart finally subsided completely. I walked to the bedside, sat down, and gently stroked his hair. Son, you're the only thing in your father's world. From now on, no one will ever be able to separate us again. That night, No one in Qingyang City slept. The building ships in the sky, the earth-shattering sounds, the demonic might that enveloped the entire city. Everyone knew that this world was about to change. In the center of all this was that mysterious man in Villeneuve, one on Cloud Peak Mountain. The people of the Heavenly Sword sect fled back to the upper realm in a sorry state. This news, like a storm, quickly swept through the entire cultivation world of the upper realm. The Heavenly Sword sect, that was a top 10 sect in the upper realm. The sect master, Xiao Changfeng, personally led a team to the lower realm, but not only did they suffer heavy losses, even his own son died in the lower realm, and in the end he fled back like a stray dog. This was simply a fantasy. Even more shocking was the news Xiao Changfeng brought back. The ancient demon lord has reappeared in the world. For a time, the entire upper realm was shaken. Countless old monsters who had been in seclusion for many years emerged one after another, and the high-level officials of the major sects held emergency meetings. Demon Lord, these two words represented blood and fire, destruction and termination. It was the common nightmare of all immortal sects who considered themselves righteous. And at this moment, at the center of the storm, Lingxiao Palace. The atmosphere was extremely suppressed. Ling Qingxue knelt in the center of the hall, her face pale and her whole body soaked. She had been bathed in the water of the repentant spring for 3 days and 3 nights. The cold spring water constantly eroded her immortal body and Tao heart, but she could not feel the slightest cold, because her heart was colder and colder than this spring water. Above the hall, the palace master of Lingxiao Palace, a stunningly beautiful woman in palace attire, was looking at her with a frosty face. Qingxue, do you know your guilt? Ling Qingxue's delicate body trembled, and she said in a low voice, Disciple, knows her guilt. Know your guilt? You are more than just knowing your guilt. The palace master slammed the armrest fiercely and said sternly, I asked you to go to the lower realm to experience the love tribulation, so that you could cut off the threads of love, see through the illusions, and seek the great Tao, not so that you could provoke a demon lord to come back. Now, Xiao Tianze of the Heavenly Sword sect is dead, and Xiao Changfeng has pushed all the responsibility onto our Lingxiao Palace. More importantly, the demon lord was awakened because of you. Now the entire upper realm is in panic. How can we, Lingxiao Palace, deal with this? Ling Qingxue's head lowered even further. Master, disciple really didn't know he was the demon lord. Her voice was full of endless regret. If she hadn't been so heartless, if she hadn't left with Nyener, if she had chosen to believe Li Mu and stay by his side, then now, would she be the demon lord's woman? Who in the entire upper realm would dare to disrespect her, instead of kneeling here, like a sinner? Unfortunately, there was no if. What's the use of saying this now? The palace master snorted coldly. The demon lord has already declared that you and Lingxiao Palace should not appear in front of him again. Otherwise, the consequences will be borne by yourselves. Do you know what this means? This means that our Lingxiao Palace has been pushed to the forefront. Either we hand you over to appease the demon lord's anger, or we will have to bear the pressure of the entire righteous path, or even the demon lord's anger. Ling Qingxue's body trembled violently. She knew that she had become a pawn. Master, she raised her head, her eyes full of pleading. Nyener, my son is still in his hands. He is my only bloodline. Shut up. The palace master interrupted her sternly. That is the demon lord's son, a demon seed. How dare you mention him? From today onwards, you're stripped of your position as holy maiden and confined to the cliff of repentance on the back mountain. Without my order, you shall never leave. As for that demon seed, let him live or die on his own. Our Lingxiao Palace must never have anything to do with the demon lord again. After saying that, the palace master flicked her sleeves and left without looking at her again. 2 law enforcement elders stepped forward, supported the distraught Ling Qingxue, and dragged her towards the back mountain. Ling Qingxue did not resist, but just kept muttering to herself. Wrong. Everything is wrong. Lower realm, Qingyang City. I didn't care about the turmoil in the upper realm. I still spend every day with my son, living a leisurely life. Chun Jingji has completely become my spokesperson. The entire Qingyang City and even all the surrounding underworld forces have been integrated by him. They call me Venerable One, and the annual tributes of wealth are astronomical figures. But I'm not interested in any of that. I'm waiting for Ling Qingxue, or rather, waiting for the upper realm to give me an explanation. Although I told her to get lost, that doesn't mean this matter is over. She hurt my heart and stole my son. This debt must be repaid with blood. One day, I was teaching Lin Yin the primal beginning demon scripture that I tailored for him. This cultivation method allows him to perfectly control the demon lord bloodline within him without being corrupted by demonic nature. Suddenly, I felt something and looked towards the sky. Chun Jingji also sensed it and immediately appeared beside me. Senior, someone from the upper realm is here again. I nodded. This time, someone decent has come. In the sky, space cracked open. But this time, there were no towering ships or heavenly soldiers. Only an old man in a green Taoist robe, with an immortal aura, walked out of the rift alone. He didn't release any pressure, but his appearance made the laws of the entire world seem to be worshipping him. A tribulation transcendence stage expert, one of the top existences in the upper realm. After the old man appeared, his gaze fell on me. He showed no hostility, just took a deep look at me, and then bowed to me from afar. This old one, Dao Yi, greets Demon Lord. His voice was gentle and full of respect. I looked at him and said calmly, "What is it?" Dao Yi smiled wryly. "I dare not deceive Demon Lord. This old one is here to mediate the grievances between the Heavenly Sword Sect, the Lingxiao Palace, and you." Mediate? I laughed. I killed Xiao Tian, Su, and crippled half of the Heavenly Sword Sect's elders. Do you think these grievances can still be mediated? Dao Yi shook his head. Demon Lord is joking. In your eyes, the Heavenly Sword Sect is nothing but ants. How dare they have the word grievances? Xiao Changfeng has already had his cultivation crippled and been expelled from the sect. The Heavenly Sword Sect has also closed its mountain for 100 years to atone for their sins. As for the Lingxiao Palace, Dao Yi paused and took out a jade box from his sleeve. The palace master of the Lingxiao Palace knows that she failed to discipline her subordinates properly, causing a great disaster. She especially ordered this old one to bring the 9-aperture exquisite heart to appease Demon Lord's anger. Furthermore, they have already banished Ling Qingxue to the mortal realm, crippled all her cultivation, and she shall never again set foot on the path of cultivation. My eyes flickered. The 9-aperture exquisite heart is a treasure of heaven and earth that can reshape the Tao foundation and cleanse the divine soul. It will be of great benefit to Lin Yin's future cultivation. As for Ling Qingxue, her cultivation crippled and banished to the mortal realm, never to cultivate again, that's a more interesting punishment than killing her. Let her experience how the mortals she looks down on so much actually live. With a wave of my hand, the jade box flew into my hand. I scanned it with my divine sense and confirmed that it was correct. I looked at Dao Yi and slowly said, "I accept the item. Tell them that this matter ends here. But let this be a warning." Dao Yi was greatly relieved upon hearing this and bowed deeply again. "Thank you, Demon Lord, for your magnanimity." This old one takes his leave. After speaking, he did not dare to linger for even a moment and immediately tore through space and disappeared. I took the jade box and turned back to the villa. The grievances are over. From now on, the upper realm and I have nothing more to do with each other. I just want to be with my son and live a stable life in this mundane world. As for Ling Qingxue, perhaps one day, I will see an old woman struggling for a living on a street corner in some city. I wonder if she will still remember that she was once a lofty immortal then, and whether she will regret the most beautiful human dream that she personally shattered.